I should have checked if I was done uploading before starting the stream, but I am. So that is fantastic. Hopefully there's no other internet issues today, like there was earlier this week. Welcome, everyone. So we did a bit of a poll on the Discord, and people very much were in favor of me doing this magic programming thing. So that's what we're going to be doing today. I don't have a lot of plans for it. So I was hoping that, like, if people show up over the course of the stream, like, people might have ideas that we can do. Because for the most part, I imagine that a lot of this, now I actually wanted to download like a bunch more particle effects to throw in there, but didn't have time for that. So I guess I'll replace some particle effects later on. I imagine that a lot of the behavior for a lot of these spells is going to be fairly simple to program. So we probably will be able to do a handful of them, depending on how many IDs we get. So I think we can get started. So I'll show you the basic setup of how, like, the setup for the magic works in the first place, because the magic... Hold on, let me put this on my headphones real quick. There we go. The magic is just items. I'm like hooking into the item system. This is just a placeholder thing. This is a magic spell, and I can put it into like my quick uses here, which I think set up before. Maybe I set that up off stream. I might have set it up off stream. I don't know. I think I did. Anyway. So this is just like a D-pad thing. I don't have it bound to the D-pad yet. I have it bound to J, K, L, and I. But I can just walk in here, and then any of these things that are in my quick use menu, I can use with the corresponding keys. And that can be a potion. That can be any sort of item. Or that can be a spell. So I have a handful of like item subclasses here, that being the usable item. That has a function called use item, which I just, on my player character, I can show you real quick. Also, hello everybody coming in. It seems like there's a lot of people coming in already, so that's kind of nice. So yeah, here in my player character somewhere, yeah, right here, I have these item input actions for like up item, the left item, the down item, and the right item. That gets a reference to my HUD, which has functions for use top item, use left item, use bottom item, use left item or right item, and that then gets the item in that slot, casts it to the usable item, and then runs the usable item function. So at that point, it is just a matter of the different subclasses of that, which is at the moment a consumable item, which does this stuff. So this removes one item from the corresponding slots. At the moment, it also prints a string, but don't need to do that. If it was able to remove that item from the slots, it applies a gameplay effect to itself. So I can make potions or whatever with a variety of different gameplay effects, and very easily just say, hey, this potion execute this gameplay effect. And then I can make another potion that executes a totally different gameplay effect. So it's more than just giving in a couple of numbers or whatever, right? And then I think somewhere it also has the possibility to like check a attribute A and B to each other and check if they're already equal. That's just to set up some stuff like checking if the like HP is already equal to the max HP. Then I want to like not execute any of this, and I don't want to use up the item. So that's the basic rundown of the potion, and then it also spawns a system for particles, and it plays a sound. And then the thing that we're going to be working on today is the ability item, and that's a lot more simple. It checks whether or not this thing has an ability system component, And if it does, it just gives the ability that I give in through a variable with a certain level, if that is relevant at all, and an input ID, again, if that is relevant at all. And then just executes that ability, and this also then immediately removes that ability. So this way, it is very easy to just make a new item, make a new ability, slap the ability onto the item, and we have a new spell. So that's what we're going to be doing today. That's the basic rundown of how like my item system now also very easily functions as a magic system. And I'm tying this very much like into the inventory itself, but it's very much possible to set this up using the item system still without having it be part of the inventory itself. You can just make like a separate inventory that only takes in like magic items, for instance, and there you go. That's just like a menu now. You don't really like move things around in, but you get the point. So, long story short, this is the first ability that I have. I just made it in like a couple of minutes real quick. Let's call this Thunder Spell, because that is what it is. It's actually a lightning spell, right? Technically speaking. Happy Halloween. It is Halloween, isn't it? Yeah, you're right. Happy Halloween, everybody. I didn't realize until like literally this moment. I had it all day long. So yeah, here we have the ability class for Thunder, and all that this does is it just does a sphere overlap. We don't need to draw the debug sphere anymore. Then it checks whether or not anything of type enemy was overlapping with that in the first place. If so, it tries to commit the ability, which uses up some MP, and checks if you have enough MP to begin with. Then it applies a gameplay effect to itself to set the knockback value and whatever. And then it gets all of the overlapping enemy actors and deals a couple of things of like specific damage to them through gameplay effects, and then the rest just goes through the normal applied damage like interface, and it spawns a system at location. It's also a noodly mess. I'm not going to fix that because I don't care. So I was thinking the first thing that we can do is probably like make a pretty basic like fireball attack, right? If we just make an actor that shoots forward, maybe with like slight homing properties to like the focused in enemy. That's a pretty decent starting point, I would think. And if you guys have any ideas, do list them for like magic spells, and maybe we can take a look into making some of those. I have some other ideas, but those might be a little bit more bothersome to make, so I don't know. I also have an incredibly dry mouth. I feel like I'm getting a cold or something. I haven't been quite feeling alright this entire week, but we'll get there. Okay, so let's make the gameplay ability for like Fireball. So gameplay ability. And I think here we can start making some more interesting abilities rather than just play animation, which is kind of what all my abilities have been up until now. So gameplay ability Fireball. This will be fairly easy, but maybe we can also do something with like a charge up or whatever, right? Because those kind of things are just easily provided by gameplay ability. So, first and foremost, we want to... I guess we can just get player character. Doesn't really matter, we can actually just get avatar, actor from info, and cast this to a third person character, because we're never going to be using this on anything else. And if we are, we want to not do that, so just end ability to be entirely certain. Necromancer spell can be fun to summon a skeleton NPC. That could be fun. That would be a lot more involved with like setting up stuff, because now I need to make a whole... Then again, it's not that complicated. It's just like go to enemy and fucking punch them in the face, right? But I would have to make like a behavior tree for that as well. So maybe not today, but it's not a bad idea. Let's promote this to a variable real quick. And then we get the, I think it's called closest enemy. We get the closest enemy. Let's promote that to a variable as well, because we're going to be needing that. And let's change this into a validated get, actually. There we go. Because once again, if there is no closest enemy, we want to simply end the ability. Is this multiplayer? No. This is going to be entirely single player, which makes a lot of things just easier to deal with, because I don't have to worry about like getting other player character references and whatever. It's just a pain. And networking in general is just a pain, so I don't want to deal with that. Okay, so after all that, we are finally ready to commit ability. For now, we'll just, in the class defaults, cooldown effect, we'll just make a dash cooldown. I wish you could just put in a number here, man. That would be so much better if you could. Why? Like, what situation does an entire gameplay effect make more sense than just a number of seconds here? It's real messed up. Like for this one, I kind of get it for the gameplay cost, but still don't love it. I'm just going to be reusing the thunder cost for now. And then I guess we just kind of spawn actor from class. I'm going to ask about my enemy health on your UI. That should... I mean, that should just be a matter of needing to replicate the... Oh, that's a good question. Because I think if you just replicate the enemy HP value... that should just allow you to display it on a widget. Like the widget itself, I don't think needs to have anything particularly done to it. It just, like, the values need to be replicated. I think. I'm not exactly, like, very deep into, like, the whole networking thing. So yeah, now we, I guess, spawn an actor. Now we need to make an actor to spawn, rather. So let's make a blueprint class, actor, fireball. Let's call this BP fireball, just because gotta set a good example with naming conventions and stuff like that, right? And we'll just add a sphere for now. This might become something different eventually. I don't know. How big is this sphere? Because this sphere is going to be massive, isn't it? I think that this sphere is going to be massive. Hold on. I mean, it's pretty big. Maybe it could be a little bit smaller than this. I feel like making it a little bit smaller might not be a bad idea. So let's go sphere scale like half. Oh, that in all axes, please. That might be a little small. We'll see. Where did I? Oh. And then I guess we add in a sphere collision as well. It's just a little bit larger. And then on begin overlap, we just... And this is the wonderful thing, right? Because I'm not doing anything multiplayer. I can just check if the actor it's overlapping with is not equal to get player character. We'll do something. If I were doing like a multiplayer game, I couldn't do this because this checks for the local player character, right? So Since there's only ever going to be one player character in my game, I can get away with doing lazy stuff like this, but otherwise I would need to set like a instigator and then check against that instigator, and it's just like not that big a deal, but this is easier. And I like easier, so we're going to do that. So if it's not equal to that, what do we do, right? Do we need to send any messages back to... Wish I didn't start with multiplayer. Do you mean as like the first thing you're making is multiplayer? Because that is a terrible idea. If you mean like just exploring multiplayer, I mean, I agree with you. I don't like dealing with it, so I avoid it at all costs. So what was I doing? Oh yeah, I was thinking, once this thing is spawned, do we really need this ability to stay around and like do anything? Because I don't think we do. I think when we overlap with something, all we do is we do a sphere overlap. The sphere position will be the get actor location. Object types for now will just be pawn, I think. And then the class filter will set to enemy. And then the sphere radius, I think what we're going to do is... I'm going to link it to this collider. So get radius. And then we're just going to like multiply that by like 2. So that's a little bit bigger. Then we check if we overlapped with anything at all, which hopefully we will. And then we'll for each loop over all that. And just apply damage to them all. Oh, but now we're getting into an interesting thing, right? Because we might need to... Okay, this could be interesting, because what's going to happen is anytime an enemy gets knocked back, it always gets knocked back away from the player. But we could enter a situation where we... let me just draw this out real quick. We could enter a situation where we have like some enemies, right? Let's just draw the enemies in like this. And then we have the player here. I shoot my little fireball at this enemy. If I don't move from that point onward, it's going to get like knocked back into this direction, which makes sense because it's going to be hit from this direction. But let's say that I move over in this direction, and now I am over here. It's still going to get hit from like this vector, but now it's going to be knocked back in this direction, which might be a little bit weird. So we might need to update how the knockback works on the enemies, which I probably should have done that to begin with. Anyway. For now, though, we'll just keep it as is, and maybe I'll look into that in the future, because I don't exactly know how we're going to deal with that. To be like 1,000% honest with you. That's probably going to have to be more than 10. It's going to be based on like a magic set or something at some point anyway. Because let's just check out real quick how the knockback works. If I check my BP base enemy. Oh, and it's enemy base, I think. Enemy, just enemy. Just enemy base. There we go. Making a card game, copying Hearthstone. always good to just like copy other people. Like, creativity is just getting a bunch of different ideas from other people and putting them together for the most part. And that's a kind of cynical way to look at it, but there's very few things that are wholly original. So like, don't worry about that. I got menus working, hand widget, player deck, deck building, attacking, battle cry. That's actually a lot of stuff they already have working. And 1v1, v1, 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 v1 also works. That's actually pretty good. But interesting that the health is the thing that you're then stuck on. Anyway, so this is the damage for the enemy base class. It runs the gameplay ability for knockback, which gets the... Let's see, it gets the player character's active location. I guess we can just change this to... Ooh, but it applies it to itself, doesn't it? Oh, because it's an ability. Oh, that's not great. So I guess what we can do to fix that is, instead of getting the player character's location, what we do is we cast this to the enemy base class instead. Just give me a moment. Because this shouldn't be that big a deal, right? Because from here we can then add some stuff. I said that I was going to look at this later, and now I'm looking at it now. Welcome in my brain. Not really stuck, haven't looked into the UI much, to be honest, because I've never done it before. I don't think the UI should pose much of an issue, because UI just generally displays stuff that is driven by your code itself. So if your code works, just like hooking up that information to the UI should be all you need to do, I think. The only thing to look at that point would be, yeah, you do need the like health values to be replicated so that every client has access to the most up-to-date health values so that they can display them. But if your health is already replicated, it should just be a matter of like every object just displays its own health as like a percentage of its max health, which would be two variables that need to be like, again, replicated across all clients. And that should be all there is to it, I think. But I might be overlooking something entirely. Anyway, U property blueprint read write. There's going to be a F vector knockback origin. I have that already, so it should be. Yeah, I think if you already have that set up, and also, hello, there's a lot of people. Apparently the thumbnail worked very well today. To be honest, it is a cool looking thumbnail. Yeah, I think you should be good to go for the most part then, if you have all that stuff already set up for like replication. I added a new variable, so we're going to need to recompile real quick. Fantastic. It's going to take a second. But yeah, so now that we have this knockback origin, when I get hit, I just need to send through the instigator of that damage event and then get that instigator's active position. And we'll look into what that actually then ends up doing in a moment. Because if I send that through, then the enemy can take that in and use that to like set that value, then I can get that value in the ability, and everything should work out fairly easily like that. Morning, the fuck we doing? We are making magical abilities for my game. So right now, I'm working on a fireball attack. And as part of that fireball attack, I also realized that my knockback ability is kind of fucked. So we're trying to like... we're trying to like fix that up, and then we'll see where we go from there. So now the enemy will have get like knockback origin. And I guess I should check whether or not that's not 0, just because, right? UMG view model plugin is awesome for UI. It's built in... Oh, I've never actually looked at that. That's good to know, because UI kind of is always a pain in the ass. I've been reworking a lot of my UI as well. I'll show you in a moment, actually. But now instead of getting the player character's X location, we can just use the knockback origin. And we need to set that though. I was like, I'm forgetting something. I'm forgetting something that feels important. Setting that value. So in event any damage, like if is visible and not dead, we set knockback origin. And we get that from the damage causer, not the instigator, because the instigator is a controller, right? Yeah. So the damage causer will be an actor, right? Yes, it is an actor. And that will get actor location. And we might need to go into a few places now to make all that work. Anyway, plugins, oh shit. I mean, I do have my inventory plugin here, but for the most part, we're not using a lot of plugins. And the one that I'm using gameplay ability, of course. And the inventory plugin I wrote myself. But I wouldn't want to do any of this without using gameplay ability. That would be a nightmare. But that's really the only plugin at this point that I'm using. I used to have common UI in this project as well, but then I realized actually I don't want that, so I'm redoing all my UI, as I was just talking about. Do we not have like Fireball open anywhere in here? It seems like we may not. Well, we can just open that back up. That's fine. I have a shortcut now to the player folder, because I always forget where it is. And even now, where are we? Fireball. There we go. Oh yeah, I was working on the Fireball actor. That was it. My brain is not braining very well at the moment, so do forgive me. How do you make shortcuts? It's not a shortcut, it's a favorite. You can favorite folders just by right-clicking on any folder. You can add them to favorites. And then you can very quickly navigate to folders that you use a lot. So I very often go into my levels folder to like open either the persistent level or like my testing level, where I also do my animation stuff. And then I also often need to access my player folder. So those are in my favorites. I might also like put in my enemies folder in there or something like that at some point. But yeah, that's quite nice. I wish you could also favorite assets to just like open them up from this menu right here, but that's not a thing that you can do. I'm sure that there's a plugin for that though. I should look into if there's a plugin for that, because that would be really nice. Matter of fact, you can probably fairly easily make an editor utility widget to do that, because it's just literally a list of classes. So if you just have that, yeah, I probably should just make that. That's one of those things, right? You're like, specifically, if you are a little bit comfortable with editor utility widgets, you quickly get into a mindset where anytime you complain about the engine, you have to think, okay, but I can probably just make that. So I should shut up or make it and stop complaining. ChatGPT, I don't know, man. ChatGPT is good for like individual problems, but not like full solutions. It doesn't really. You want to know why I hate commercial engines? I mean, they don't teach you how they work. I don't know about that. Like, there's just a lot to learn. I wrote an entire game engine with it. You don't know. I mean, I doubt that it's well written then if you use ChatGPT to only ChatGPT. Anyway. So we have this base damage value. ChatGPT is, don't get me wrong, ChatGPT is good to use. I use it all the time. But ChatGPT is good to work through specific singular problems. Not on the scope of making an entire like game or making an entire plugin or making an entire game engine. Because it simply just doesn't have like the memory context to deal with stuff. And when it makes a mistake, you try to correct it on that mistake. It doesn't tend to like realize that very much in its responses going forward, because it's still using the text that it generated itself before to inform the context of the conversation. And because it itself generates such a wall of text, and usually if it does something wrong, your answer to it is going to be much shorter. It's going to be less heavily weight in its future responses as well. So there's a bit of an issue with that. Anyway, damage causal will be a reference to self. We're trying to like program stuff here. And then that's all we need to do from there. But there is another thing. Because we have the normal... Oh, no, don't crash. Okay, thank you. We have the normal like base attack ability as well. There's going to be another couple of abilities that we actually need to deal with here. Man, if every streamer tells you the same thing, at some point you might just need to reflect on maybe you're the one that's wrong. Well, that's an issue for yourself to take care of. You're fucking exhausting. Boy. Anyway, where were we? We were doing damage stuff, I think. Yes, there we go. Damage causal is already set to the proper thing. So that should just work. I don't know what that guy was going on about, but like, it's not my fucking problem. Let's just disconnect that for now. I don't know. It had very strong, like, 13-year-old energy, and I have very little patience for that stuff. Okay, so does the knockback just work on this? It just straight up does. That's fantastic. Yeah, so the knockback on this is going to be... Actually, that still works. That is... weird. Good, but weird. Okay, also maybe need to look into that. Yeah, let's try to fix those little things before I forget all about it. So we have this, like, player... teleport attack, that's the one. Find teleport attack location. Somewhere in here we have a gameplay effect that, like, yeah, wait for damage. When damage is received, we... Oh, yeah, so... When event is received, what we should do instead, hold on, is the target should just apply damage. I'm still using, like, my old damage code here. Which is driven by what exactly in this case? Wait. Oh, it's a damage value. So in this case, I guess that would just be... We need to set up some other stuff, because this needs to be based on some shenanigans. But for now, we can just set this to, like, I don't know, 15 or something, and then all this stuff can just go away, I think. And then the damage causer, fairly important to set up, of course. Let's set this up. We can just... There we go. Oh, this is the update damage value, so... Okay, so we update the damage value and then we give in, I guess, where... Surely somewhere in here we already have a reference to, like, the player's gameplay ability component. I haven't been in this class for a while, and it's kind of a mess. But I guess we can just get ability system component, and from that we can get the float attribute, or get attribute as float, I think. Get attribute... float base attribute. There we go. So that can be... I think we have, like, a player damage. And that's the damage that we'll actually be dealing, and the damage causer will be the player. So that should be fixed now. That being said, though, the thunder... The damage causer... Who is the damage causer for the thunder? Did I just, like, put in... I just put in the player for that, didn't I? Well, that kind of works for this ability, so that's not that big a deal. I mean, C++ can also be a mess when you don't write it well. But it doesn't visually look like a mess. Like, you actually need to read it to see that it's fucked up. Where Blueprint, you also spend, like, an hour of coding and then 2 hours of making sure that everything is, like, readable. Which, that doesn't really happen the same way in C++. So... let's see. Does this work now? I mean, kinda, but it still sends them into the fucking orbit. Why does it send them into orbit? Because this doesn't send them into orbit at all. But this, well, that'll actually kill them, so... why does it do that? It has to be something to do with... I really shouldn't be looking too deep into this at the moment, but like at this point I've committed. Update knockback to 100, but that should be good. I don't get it, man. I don't get it. Why would it be any different at all? Because if I go into here, we have, I think it's the exact same node setup, just with some, yeah, just... Oh, I changed how this works, that's why. Okay. So I updated this fact. If anybody is like wondering what my eureka moment was there a second ago, is I updated this to work with a curve. So at some point I just made a generic curve table with, at the moment it just has like one linear curve in it going from a value of 1 to 1,000 at values 1 and 1,000. So that way I can very easily just like give in a number of a level and have it spit out the exact same corresponding thing, but apply it to like a attribute. And I still need to do that for damage. I haven't done that for damage yet. But I used to do it differently. And this still uses the old method. So that is why we don't do this. Okay. And instead, we do this. So we just give in the gameplay level here as the value that we wanted to set it to. And I think... oh, we do need to hook that up. I think that fixes it. And just a little bit more like user-friendly and a little bit more compact than having to like make a gameplay effect and then like pull through the handle, and it's just kind of annoying. So let's try again. There we go. Seems to work. Okay. That's not what we were doing in the slightest, though. We were working on the fireball attack, so let's do that now. Fire... did I call it fireballs? Apparently I did. Base damage will be... just a static number for now, I guess. Let's... oh, we're inside the gameplay ability. Hold on. So that's not actually that big a deal. We can just get this thing and then get ability system components and then get attribute as float. And what I've been doing so far is I'm just using the max mana. I'm going to make a separate like magic damage stat, I think. Because it gives you another thing to upgrade and to like level up. But I just take the max mana and I like divide it by 10. So that works for now. Will eventually our spawn transform will be just we get transform from the actor. Eventually I'll go back and I just need to then change this to that new thing and get rid of the vision node. It's fine, okay? Then the only other thing we need to do at that point would be in fireballs. Give it a projectile component, I guess. Projectile movement component, I'm sorry. Let's set the initial speed to, I don't know, 1,000 and then max speed to 1,000 as well. Actually, let's just set max speed to 0, because 0 means that it doesn't have a limit. And then we will make this homing. It says in here somewhere. Also, gravity scale should be 0. It has like a homing ball in here somewhere. Homing projectile, there we go. Homing acceleration. The magnitude of your acceleration towards the homing target, overall velocity magnitude will still be limited to max speed. So let's say that it homes at like a velocity of 250. And then on begin play, we need to... Let's also just give it in a target actor so that when it is initially spawned in, we can just give it in the target actor. And we don't need to like pull that from the player character or anything. So we just expose that on spawn as well. Which once again... Well, actually we don't technically need to check it here because we're already checking whether or not closest enemy is valid here. And that's the thing that we're going to be passing through, which, now that we're anyway, might as well just refresh the nodes. Why? Oh, I haven't compiled yet, that makes sense. Refresh the nodes, as I was saying. Target actor is going to be our closest enemy. There is a very slim chance that something might mess up if I kill the closest enemy before this thing finishes its tracking. I suppose. I think it just keeps flying off in the same direction that I was flying at that point in time until it hits something, which is okay. But that's not actually that bad. So yeah, we can, I think, just like set targets. Oh, it's a target component. We'll get root. Actually, we can get... no, we can get root. This is not a character, so we can get root. That's fine. And then its initial velocity, we also probably should set, right? So we set velocity to get actor location of self and the target actor. And then it is always annoying to remember which way around this is, but I think you subtract the target location from the original location and then you multiply by the speed. This might be the wrong way around. Matter of fact, why am I doing this? We literally just have a find look at rotation. So start and target. I always forget that that exists as well. But then you can just multiply this by like 1,000 as well. And then it converts it into a vector anyway. So that should be everything there is to it, I think. Started to do something in Unity 6 in VR, and this seems to be Unreal. This is Unreal. It looks very Unreal. It is spaghetti. Well, this is not so much spaghetti, and it is spaghetti. It's Unreal spaghetti. So yeah, this is kind of everything there is to it, I think. So after we spawn that actor, this is not that, after we spawn that actor, I think we just end the ability. So this ability is pretty much instant, because it spawns it in and then ends it, but that's fine. So yeah, let's make an item that does that. So now, and this is the wonderful thing, right? Because I've gotten distracted about 1,000,000 times during this. I'm sorry about that. But we can just like copy over the thunder spell now. Hello. Duplicate, thank you. And then we can call this a fireball spell. Or we can just make a new data asset, but this is faster if you do it properly. And now we can just give in the ability class, which is going to be fireball, the one we just made. I'll give this a different temporary texture. It's going to be like a spine texture, whatever. Max text size is going to be 1. Value is going to be 0 because it's unsellable. We'll give the name later. Doesn't need any specific metadata, I don't think. And now it will just run that. There's one thing that I do need to do though, and that is in my third-person character on constructs. I need to give it that ability. So my item slots, I'm going to give it the fireball spell 1. This is just for debugging purposes. You're going to like craft this or find this in the world in the actual game, of course. But now it starts me with not that. Why not? Oh, because I'm loading my game. Yeah, so if I start a new game, it starts me with that. When I load game, of course, it loads in the existing inventory and overrides like anything that I give by default, which is a little annoying. But now, if I walk up to him and I press my I key, it does the thunder thing. But if I press the J key, I mean, there definitely is some room for improvement. I'll be the first to admit, but it spawns a thing in. So that's neat. Oh yeah, that's also. But wait, hold on. This is the enemy damage, right? So how do we do? Because yeah, so this probably should also take in just a number and use that with a curve, because right now it doesn't deal damage. But I also forgot another thing about the fireball, and that is when it overlaps, it should also like spawn in an explosion and destroy itself. So let's do that first. So spawn Niagara at location. Do we have an explosion? Only these ones, right? Simple explosion. I think this is just the one with the arrows, right? The ugly one. This takes a moment. I guess it doesn't matter, we'll just see it in game. Don't have the patience to wait for that right now. We'll get active locations on self, auto destroy, all that kind of good stuff, and then we will destroy actor. Yeah, so this is still an issue, right? So the thing I'm thinking is, right now the fireball cannot deal damage properly because it doesn't have an ability system component. But like, do I really like? I'm using Unreal's built-in damage system for a reason. And that's because I want to just be able to send through a number and kind of be done with it. At this moment in time, I am not using that number. As you can see here in the implementation, like the damage number just doesn't get used at all. Because what it does is it gets the current damaging value from the attribute set. So what it does is it gets a attribute from an attribute set and then calculates everything based on that. And that might actually be necessary now that I think about it, because the way it works is it uses a execution class, because it has some like pretty complex logic to it. And I don't, yeah. So yeah, we do need to do that, because the way it works, right, is we have the how do I increase the size of this? Oh, it doesn't matter. We have the like HP bar, and we have the don't we have like a different, what the hell? That's kind of neat. The fact that we can just black it out. I thought we also had a shortcut here for, oh, white background. No. This is kind of cool. Oh, now we start typing. You know what? I shouldn't be getting caught up into my zooming tool thing. We have, as I was saying, a HP bar, which I'm just going to draw in like this, and then we have our like defense bar. And the way the usual damage calculation works is, let's say that I'm doing like 40 damage, and this guy has 20 defense and 100 HP, right? So the way that works is that 40 damage is going to get taken out of this bar first until it's down to 0, at which point the remaining damage will go into subtracting the HP a little bit. When the damage bar is entirely, or when the defense bar is entirely empty, it'll just 100% get applied to the HP bar. When the defense bar is empty, it takes like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever amount of seconds. And then this one will entirely like refill, right? So the main gameplay idea is that you empty out this bar, then you go to town doing like proper damage, and then when this bar refills, rinse and repeat. But while this bar is not empty yet, every time you hit them, you do 1 HP damage to just like make slight progress. So that's the way my entire like damage calculation works. Because there is so much logic to that, I made a calculation class for that like takes in all those attributes and then like calculates stuff based on that. The issue now comes in. I either need to put that logic in like a different place to get that calculated into a singular number, or 2 different numbers rather, that I can provide in to the... But I can't send through 2 numbers. But I don't need to send through 2 numbers, actually. So what I could do is I could make that into 2 separate gameplay effects. And deal with that in this. And that is probably what I should do. Make a gameplay effect for defense damage and a gameplay effect for HP damage. And then just like we can get the values and like do some calculations in this general area based on those, and then apply those effects as they see fit. And that way I can just use this value. But that requires me to rework like this damage thing a little bit more than I might be willing to do at this time. Unless you guys are like, no, please do that. We don't care about magic. We just want to see you like do stuff. If you want to see me, it should take like 20 minutes. But if you want to see me like do that's fine. It's not that big a deal. And we'll be ready to go into the future with that. So if anybody's got any opinions on like just keep moving with a fireball attack or do the damage overhaul real quick. Because I have already gone on like 3 side quests today. So maybe I should just make some progress. The alternative is to just... And this is a little bit of a hacky workaround. But the alternative would be to go into the fireball itself and give this an ability system component, even though it doesn't need to do anything with abilities. And just set its damage value to the damage value that gets given in instead. Well, that will be a temporary fix, right? Because eventually we just want to be able to use apply damage properly. And like agnostic of who or what deals the damage should just be dealt with. And maybe not within a gameplay effect. So, yeah. The more I think about it, the more I'm like, yeah, but if I'm going to like set up an ability system component and all that kind of stuff for it, that's going to take not quite as long, but that's going to take a moment as well. So what we'll probably do is I'll show you how quickly we can do this. Let's select all this, move it a ways away that way, because it's actually like remarkably easy. We'll just need to make a separate function for this real quick. Should we do this in C++? Is there any reason to do this in C++? We may want to do this in C++. No, because I'm going to make the effect in Blueprint anyway. So apply damage. The reason I'm doing this as a separate function is so that I can make local variables. HP damage, which will be a float. And what's your face? Defense damage. I don't know why it takes me so long to think of that stuff. Inputs will be just the damage. We probably should call this something aside from apply damage, like deal damage or whatever. So, when the damage comes in, we're going to check we're going to get the ability system component. And from there, we'll get attribute as float. And the attribute that we'll be getting will be the enemy defense. Then we'll do the enemy defense minus the damage. And if this is a negative number, we know that we just need to set this enemy defense to 0. And then that negative number will be the amount of damage we need to deal to the HP. If this is a non-negative number, we just subtract 1 from the HP. So we check whether or not this is less than or equal to. I guess it doesn't really matter because this is equal to 0 is going to, yeah. So if this is less than 0, we apply a gameplay effect. I don't know if we have a gameplay effect to apply damage to the defense directly. I do, actually. I made that. Apply gameplay effect. We can just apply it to self. That's fine. And then direct defense damage. So let's just double check if that does what I think it does. Yeah, so it just takes in a level and adds a negated value of that to the defense, so it subtracts it. So that will be then the current amount of defense, because this is going to be... We'll do that in a second, actually, because what I want to do first is get the absolute value from this, and that will be the HP damage to deal in this case. And the defense damage to deal will just be the amount of defense that we have at that point. This is going to make it a bit easier to like set this up in a scalable way. Because the only like divergence in the path needs to be these two values. After that, we can just apply the same effects. Either way. So this is the defense damage that we should deal. And then I think I also just have a direct HP. So direct HP damage. So health, I think I called it. Maybe HP. Enemy. Enemy damage? I don't think it's enemy damage. Oh, I called it piercing damage. Well, I guess we're going to be using it for more than just piercing damage now. Piercing damage will be the like direct HP damage that we do. So that's good. And if this value is not less than 0, that means that the HP damage will always just be 1, because the defense hasn't been depleted yet. And then the defense damage that we deal is literally just the damage value that we're given in. And then we apply those effects as well. So that should be all there is to it, actually. So if all this is correct, we deal damage, which just provides in the damage value here. And we bypass... let's see... Yeah, so then we bypass all this other stuff. And with all this other stuff, I mean literally this one node. So I think that's all there is to it. I might have missed something somewhere, so let's check this out. There's a lot of code in a lot of places that could be going wrong here. But I think... I mean, yeah, no, it just straight up, it seems to work. It doesn't play... Oh, because it doesn't deal the damage anymore, so it doesn't actually play like the appropriate sound and particle systems. I kind of wanted to like divorce that from the gameplay effect anyway. Like I was playing around like 5 months ago at this point, 6 months ago, with the gameplay queue system, and I kind of hate it, not gonna lie. Like I'm not a fan. So I would much rather just like do that all based on which ability and not which gameplay effects. So that's entirely fine that we're doing that this way now. But that now also should make it fairly easy to just, yeah, deal damage this way. There we go. It does seem to be dealing more damage. Which actually makes sense, because it is properly using the damage value that I'm providing in, which is higher than my player strength was. Okay, that is an enormous upgrade, I would argue. So I think this now also, as a, not even a side effect, it was the thing that we're going for, will make the fireball work. Let's give it a shot. Oh, actually, if there's no things nearby, yep. But if there's something nearby... Yeah, that seems to do the trick. Okay, cool, that works. We need to refine the whole fireball thing. But after that, we can move on to a different spell. We can do more than one spell today, because the fireball is very, very basic. So yeah, let's get rid of this. Then we can like keep all this other stuff, and then all the room that I just made was entirely unnecessary because we made it into its own function anyway. That's fine. So yeah, fireball. First and foremost, I think the fireball itself should have no collision. But it also should spawn in front of the character, maybe. That's actually a really good question. Should we spawn it in the forward actor of the vector, or should we spawn it... I'm going to draw this out. There's two options that we have here. We can have the player character, and the player character has a forward vector, right? A direction that he's facing. So let's say that's this way. But let's then say that we are looking at the player character from this angle. That's a really weird camera icon. But if we're looking at the player character from this angle, might it not make more sense to fire the projectile in that direction? So using the camera's forward vector instead of the player's. I think that might make more sense, to be honest with you. Because the idea is that right now, the fireball, when it spawns in like directly on top of the player. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to spawn a little bit in front so that it doesn't like start overlapping. But now I need to decide like what direction it spawns in then as a result. But either way, I think that this static mesh itself shouldn't have any collision, because that's a little weird. And it should also start off with more stuff. What stuff? I mean speed. I assumed that I could just directly set the velocity, but it seems like I might not be able to do that. Does it have like an initial direction? I guess it just has an initial target actor location. So I have to wonder, why does it start off so slow? Is it because of the collision? It feels like it might be because of the collision. That's not... I should just make a save file with this thing existing, but we'll take a look at that later. Yeah, so it just starts at a value of 0. I mean, it works. But it just starts with a velocity of 0. Is it because of me setting the velocity directly? Because it should have like its initial speed. But its initial speed is 0. But I set it to 1,000. Did I set the max speed to 1,000 instead? No. Okay, so it is just because I'm setting the velocity directly. So yeah, that's not ideal. So then something has a 0 value in this calculation. Must be the target actor, I guess. Let's print some values to figure this out. First and foremost, this value. It's the most important value. That sounded very like Donald Trumpy in its cadence. I don't know why I did that. But here we are. Okay, if we do this and I fire this thing, it's... Oh, I think you can't multiply a rotator, maybe? I think that might be the issue. Because, like, what happens if you multiply a rotation? You just, like, come back around. So I think we need to convert it to a vector first and then multiply it. Because then it can be a velocity. I think that is going to solve the issue. Yeah, that solves the issue. So now even if I look this way, it still shoots it in that way, right? And I guess in that regard, it is kind of fine if it spawns it in front of the character itself. Right? Because if it spawns it in front of the character itself and it's not like... It's always going to be moving toward that character. So I've kind of convinced myself that that is the way to do it. How's everyone doing? I am doing distracted and productive at the same time, which is a rare sight for me indeed. So that is hopefully good. Let's make a transformer. We can actually just split this into 3 things. That's fine. Just split structure bin. The location will be the get actor location plus get actor forward vector location plus forward vector multiplied by, let's do 250. This is the most important part of programming, is pulling numbers out of your ass until you get it somewhat right. Welcome to the real world. Okay. So... Ooh, 250 is too much. Like, that is definitely too much. You see? I pulled a number out of my ass. It was too much. Let's go to 150. I'll just put this on a different monitor for now. Because you don't need to see me going back and forth every single time. I think that is not entirely necessary. So, after we do this, does anybody have any other ideas on magic spells that we can, like, quickly... 150 is still too much. Is it just, like, 50? Let's just do 50. Because we'll have 2 magic spells. We'll have the Thunder and the Fireball. And maybe the Fireball will also, like, give, like, a burning effect or whatever. And for that, a gameplay queue actually does work out fairly well. Okay, I think that this is a pretty good distance to spawn these things in at. It's crazy how much less impactful these sword swings feel if they don't have, like, an impact sound effect. Is that the speed? I mean, I'm going to probably, like, mess around a little bit with the speed. I feel like it should probably... Maybe it should be a little bit slower. I don't know. It's kind of difficult to say at the moment. I don't really know what to think, to be honest with you. About the speed of the thing. I haven't really considered that. But the initial speed we can just set to 0 because we're not using that. The initial speed is set through here. If we set this to 500, for instance, just like for shits and giggles, make it a bit slower. Does that feel better? Does that feel worse? Does it need to be faster? It might need to be faster. Yeah, sound design is important. I just suck at it. Like, I can outrun my own fireballs. I don't know if that's necessarily what we want. But I also don't want it to be like a super fast moving thing. I don't think. Maybe. I haven't really considered much of this yet, to be very honest with you. Also, maybe they should use a little bit less HP or MP or do more HP damage. because this is sword animation and effects look great. I don't know about the animations. Like, the animations are a little wacky still. The effects I do like. Oh yeah, this is the thing that I was talking about. So I redid the pause menu, or at least like the checkpoint menu. So we still have like all this, and I'm gonna save over this. But now if I want to go and upgrade my stats, I can like get to the stats, and if I want to go to the inventory, I can just see the inventory. And eventually this is also going to include a shop and a crafting menu that are going to be separate and like changeable like this. So yeah, this is a lot like neater than it used to be, and I like it. And this is, I don't know, I like this more than the common UI solution where it just like fades between these different like things. And like, this is technically the way that this works is it's one parent widget, and then all these like stats and inventory and stuff are widgets in and of themselves, which just have an animation that plays. And at the end of the animation, when it like slides out, it just becomes invisible. And when it starts the slide in animation, it becomes visible. And that's probably gonna be like cleaned up a little bit in the animation. Like, there's a very easy slide in, slide out. But the way that it works should be very adjustable, because it does array timing based on the length of the animation. So if I make the animation longer, I don't need to like go mess around with variables or anything like that. I also had the idea of making an animation for the inventory where it like makes the inventory slots visible one at a time, like that, with like a little pop-in animation for those, which could be neat. Also, I am kind of confused as to why this thing is not displaying an inventory. I'm not gonna lie, because it should be. Because when I do it, like, yeah, now it, oh, does it not? No, it does. Well, don't know what that's on about, but not my problem right now. We'll figure that out later. For now, I'd say that we have the fireball done. I'm also going to close down a couple of other classes so that I can just make the tabs go wherever they need to be. So the usable item was just for showcasing purposes. The consumable, like all these item classes are just for showing. The thunder ability I don't need to do anything with anymore. Hopefully the base enemy I don't need to do anything. Knockback we have figured out. The fireball should now be more or less finished. Oh, that's the gameplay ability, so that is definitely finished. And then the fireball itself, I guess we can give like a Niagara system to this, and then do we just have like a fire system or whatever? Not really. Not a good one anyway. Does this scale properly? I don't think it does. Does the Skullfire not have a color parameter? Oh, that's I think that's parameter for the material on this, right? It's been such a long time since I did any of this. Material function flipbook. What even? Oh, that's not a material function that I made. I've made my own fire flipbook at some point. Maybe I should be using that. Well, I don't know what it's called. Flame? Distortion map, enemy disappearance, that's what it's called. So that is still just a black and white thing. Why does it have two of these? Hold on, what the hell? It's multiplying them together. No, it's adding them together. Why would it do that? Because it's the same output, right? Am I losing my mind? Oh, this is RGB and that is alpha. Is it? No. Just both RGB. And this is with dynamic parameter 1 for the phase. And this is with dynamic parameter 1 for the phase. I don't think that this does anything. I think might as well just put this directly into there. And into there. I don't think I need this. Anyway, that then sets the particle color, which probably should be the emissive color, not the base color. So with all that, side quest. Let's initialize this. It initializes it as white. Why? Surely. This is still not the right one either. Oh, it's because I used the... Yeah, so let's use this one instead. Oh, fantastic. That screwed everything up. So what the hell's going wrong here? Oh, it's the rows and the... Yeah, that makes sense. What is the... I think this is 8 by 8, right? So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, it's 8 by 8. So that still doesn't fully make sense. Why that wouldn't do the way you do, but maybe. Gonna take off the opacity for a moment just to see. I should not be messing around with it this much, I don't think, but here we are. Yeah, this definitely should also just be particle, like, lifetime. Normalized age or whatever it's called. Particle. There is a normalized age that you can use, right? Let's just do it this way. Parameters. Tracing particles. Dynamic parameter, particle color. I could have sworn direction, macro UV, motion blur, position world space, radius, random. Oh, relative time. I think that's the... Yeah, relative time. So let's do that. Animation phase 0 to 1. That looks like a slightly better fire already. It's not that good, to be honest with you, but let's just use this as a starting point. I'm doing particles apparently now. This should be pretty quick to do though. And this is pretty good to... Where did I put my fireball? There we go. So if we just take this real quick and we like mesh fire, or let's just do, yeah, let's do mesh fire. And we'll just do the shape location away. And what we'll do instead is we'll do a mesh location. I can do a static mesh location, right? That's the thing that you can do. Yeah, static mesh location. There we go. Preview mesh, we'll just make a sphere for now. Which one is it? I think it's this one, maybe. Needs CPU access, that makes sense. And then what we do is we increase the size and increase the spawn rate a little bit. Oh, it's already 400 a second. Okay, so we mostly just increase the size. So let's do this. We already have a scale size already, I think, as well. No, we don't. Well, we'll look into that in a moment. We'll change it from like 30 to 50 or whatever. And then scale size. Sprite size. There we go. So in theory, if we now go back to the fireball, I mean, it is just emitting from the mesh. That's good. But I think what I wanted to do is I wanted to move up less, and I wanted to move, spawn more across the entire mesh. So what I wanted to do is let's sample the vertices instead. And that can be random. It's still spawning in the middle for some reason. It shouldn't be, I don't think. But let's decrease the velocity. Oh, maybe it's... Hold on, maybe we just don't want to give it velocity at all. Yeah, so for some reason... Let's just, for shits and giggles, set this to like 2500, see if that changes anything. It doesn't really, it just makes this into like... I think it's just a previewing issue, to be honest with you. Must be, because if I go back into here, this... You know what? Might actually look better without the mesh at this point. Definitely would look better if this just always rendered in front. Maybe. Let's just set this to being invisible or something. See what that looks like. I think if we set it to hidden, it'll also hide its children. Or maybe not. Hold on, can I just set visible to false? You know what? I think that just might do it. I think that actually works fairly well. So now we can just have a little bit of fun. So let's also like scale color over lifetime, and we'll initialize particle back to a white at the start. We'll scale color, RGBA, linear color curve. And then we'll also do another scale color after that, and that'll just be for the Not scaling alpha. Vector from float, and then that float will be a curve. We'll just set that to like 15. Just so that it has a bit more brightness to it. And this will also then be a... Actually, if we do that, we can just do these together as a color curve. There we go. So they start as being... bright orange, and they die as being more red. And maybe we spawn like 650 of them per second instead. Yeah, I think that's a pretty decent fireball, don't you think? I think that's pretty much good enough. The only question is, this is going to simulate on world space, isn't it? So this is going to look pretty wacky when it is moving, I think. But that might be good. It actually looks really quite good in-game. But at this point, I feel like it maybe could be bigger. And I don't... There's also the issue that it spawns in as being... like from 0. So we need like a little bit of a extra like flair to it. Which is really quite difficult to do. Let's just see if we can... I don't know why the whole like sphere thing isn't working. Is it because any of this stuff? Oh, kill particles in volume. That'll do it. All right. Okay. That might have been the issue. There we go. Yeah, so I think if we go back into here, like now that we have this, I do think that I want this to be a bit bigger again. Like, let's set this to 0.7. I'm going to initialize particles as being even bigger, so let's set them to... We have like a scale size as well. We already have a scale size, right? So we can just set this to being like 2.5 times as big. That does something pretty good. And then I guess at the very start we'll add a different thing, and this one will only loop. No, not that one. One of them doesn't really matter which one. I guess this is now the spawning one. So this one will only loop once. The other one will loop infinitely. And this one, instead of spawning in the mesh location, can I just... Interesting. Could I like offset them all in the like normal direction so that they all come in like in the same shape as the mesh, but then like work inward? Because I think this is just a apply sample position directly to the particle position, apply sample position, sample movement to the particle position, allows for use of forces to constrain alongside. Yeah, don't think that's it. Oh, offset position along sample normal. That is 1000% what I want. So if I set this to like 50, that is exactly what I wanted. Holy shit. Like 250? Maybe not 250. Let's just do like 100. Because the idea that I had was that instead of all that, what we'll do is we'll like have a attraction force, like point attraction. Why aren't you attracting? Guess the attraction radius just needs to be bigger. Oh, holy hell, what's happening there? And this shouldn't be a spawn rate, this should be a spawn burst. So, I hope this is also fun. I said I was going to do a lot of programming, and I kind of get stuck making this, but this is just fun. So, spawn count like 500. So why aren't you doing your like point attraction thing? I think it's just maybe the attraction strength needs to be higher. Yeah, and then the... Oh, it's the mesh pivot point is at the center there, I think. Why is it not doing it for the rest of those things? That's the thing that's kind of weirding me out. Let's turn this one off real quick, just so I can see what's happening with all this. Because this is pretty cool, like all these things spawning in on all the like vertices. I love that stuff. Because that makes it feel like very like geometrical, which is kind of cool for magic stuff. Don't know what the hell this scale color is doing. We're gonna get rid of that one. I guess this doesn't actually need to have drag. Scale sprite size. Can we instead of just... Can we just move to word point or something like that? No. I mean, the attraction strength is going to need to be at least something. And it gathers up everything like down there, but... do you make your own textures for the effects? This one is one that I did make. Yeah, so these are made with... A friend of mine showed this. It's actually quite cool. This is made with Embergen, which is a real-time fluid simulation program. So if I just like open up, I think, I don't know, I think it's just this one. No, this is a different one. This is one that I use for like the appear vortex for like one of my characters. I think home, page up. I haven't really used this much, so I don't know all the shortcuts off the top of my head. I guess, oh, it's just left key for previous keyframe. Ah, that works. So yeah, this is entirely, fuck it, you saw the thing. This is entirely like a node-based system, which does like full fluid simulations. And you can then easily bake those down into like flipbooks for your textures. So that's what the, what I make that with as well. It's just, they also have a bunch of like pre-existing stuff that you can like work off of. Like the one I just showed you is a heavily modified version of this smoke shockwave. Yeah, it's called Embergen. It's really quite cool. It is one of those things that has a subscription model, but I think after like a year or 2 years of subscription, you just own a full license. So it's not a thing that you need to keep paying for, unless you of course want to get new updates, at which point you'll need to like, I don't know exactly how it works, to be honest with you. But it's a rent to own model. So it's not like Adobe where you're like perpetually stuck paying a subscription. But it's also not the way that Adobe used to be, where you needed to pay like $1,000 at once to get the license. This is like a middle ground. You have a subscription, and you just pay for about 2 years, and then you have a license. My license currently isn't activated because I removed my CMOS battery a while ago. So that kind of like fucked some of my like computer's memory. Yeah, rent to own. That's the thing that I was looking for. So yeah, that's what this flipbook is made in, and it makes the quality of your particle effects so much better if you can like throw in textures like that. As you can see, like this looks so much better than just having like the basic round sprite renderer. That still doesn't explain why the hell this point attraction force isn't doing what I wanted to be doing. I suppose I can just like offset this. What the fuck? Is there a way for me to visualize what the hell is going on with this? Because there is. Fantastic. Why is it only doing it downward? Oh, it just didn't reach the other ones. Okay, fantastic. So now it should... Attraction force 5. Put that fountain on again. Hold on. Oh, stop. This one should be... Okay, so first and foremost, it should have a offset that's a little more upward. I think maybe that's just for this specific mesh. We'll see. I mean, that looks pretty good. Aside from the fact that it's looping, which obviously we don't want. But I think I just... Okay, I didn't set that properly. Sure. So now it does it once, and then the fireball itself keeps going. Okay. That's going to make it look a lot better. Hopefully. It doesn't... why doesn't it kill itself? On overlap, we'll look into that in a moment. First and foremost, let's turn this one off. And this one just straight up is fine to look like that. Or attract to the center position rather. Nothing offset. But yeah, Ambergen, I've been playing around with it a little bit to make those flipbooks. Not a lot yet, but I definitely plan to like get more into it as well. I think that the particle lifetime should be shorter for this, like 0.5 to 1 instead. And then increase the attraction force here to like 12. Let's make this 0.3 to 0.6. Hmm. 0.4 to 0.58. And then technically, I guess it would be better if this one started just a smidge later, which requires me to set loop delay. Yeah, okay. If this one starts just a little bit later. Hello. There we go. I think that'll be slightly better. Also, hello. Welcome to the stream. Aaron. Okay, hold on. I think we just need this. How's GameDev going? I'm getting very distracted doing these particles instead of doing actual coding. We'll get back to the coding part in a second, I swear. So yeah, I think these just, like, they need to stay larger for a longer time and they need to get larger quicker. So that we can... Yeah, I think that's pretty good. Okay, then we also had the issue where, and this is technically coding, we had the issue where it didn't disappear. Why doesn't it disappear? When it overlaps with literally anything, it should disappear. Particles are fun to just, oh, it's overlap all dynamic. No, it should be overlap all. Like when it collides with literally anything, it should trigger. Because when it collides with the wall, it should also explode. So yeah, that should be... That should be that. It's a little anticlimactic when it hits, I'll be the first to admit. Because now the fireball itself looks, like, pretty good, right? Like, we can agree that that looks pretty good. But the impact is kind of anticlimactic. This is fine. Yeah, so different spells. Let's think about a different spell that we can maybe either make real quick in the next, like, 40 or so minutes, or at least get started on making. Because now what we have is a area of effect like Thunderstrike and a like basic normal fireball. So what other things could we potentially do? Like, I'll just show you. We have, of course, like that fireball, which, man, that looks good. And we have like this Thunderstrike as well, which also I quite like the way that that looks. That's 2 spells. We only have like 20 something more that I want to do, and I don't really have many ideas as far as like different spells go. So let's just think about that for a moment. What other things could we maybe do? Kind of like a mine. Like an area of effects mine. I kind of like the idea. Hold on. I actually kind of like the idea of making a spell that just like randomly spawns in a handful of mines around you. And then when an enemy walks over them, they get hurt. So that's actually pretty easy to make as well, I think. So if we go into here, and I'm just going to copy the fireball thing over. This will be BP mine. And if anybody's ever played Kingdom Hearts, you know that this is going to be, like specifically Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, you know that this is going to be an overpowered spell. Because, like Magnet Mine in Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep is broken as hell. Shrink one that makes mobs smaller and weaker. That might require a little bit more coding, but that still could be fun. Just like from an animation perspective and dealing with like damage and such. Because right now they don't really have a damage multiplier. Well, no, do they? No, they don't. They only have a multiplier for when they initially spawn in, but not when they're actually dealing damage. Might be a good thing to like program in as like a tool to have, though. To be fair. like have two float variables, one of the multiplied value of incoming damage and one for the multiplied value of outgoing damage. Something to slow them down. That could be good, but I think that would require more generally faster enemies, which I do plan on making, because at the moment there's like one enemy that you barely can outrun. It kind of has the same movement speed as the player, I think. Maybe like a little bit higher. But the rest of the enemies that I have at the moment are fairly slow. So I would need to have some more fast enemies to make a slowing spell work well. But that's also fairly easy to set up, right? It's just set movement speed to a lower value, wait a couple of seconds, and set it to a higher value again. Also, I want to do a lifesteal spell as well. So I probably should get into that as well. But okay, so we've got these mines. The mines themselves, instead of having a like velocity that is like the target actor and stuff like that, we don't need a target actor for this. We will need a base damage. The velocity that we're going to be making for this will just be like entirely random, right? So we'll make actually, how are we going to do that? So I was thinking we get a random float and range. So random float and range with like a minimum of 100 units and then a maximum of like 600 units for both the X and the Y. And then we multiply that by a select float on a random bool. Hear me out, this is going to make sense. Either by just 1 or by -1. And we do that for both. So that gets you a random float in a range from 1 to 600, either in the positive or the negative direction for both of them. Which helped with, instead of just doing -600 to +600, which means that they could also like effectively spawn on top of the player, which obviously isn't exactly what we want. This kind of should help fix that up. So this will be the X velocity, this will be the Y velocity, and then the Z velocity, I guess will also be a random float, but that'll always be positive, and that's going to be like, I don't know, 1,000 to 1,500. Again, just random numbers until we get to the things that work. We don't set homing at all for these. These ones will have a normal gravity scale. They are not bouncy at all. I think when should bounce is turned off, they don't bounce at all anyway. And these ones will spawn in above the player's head, but we'll worry about that in a moment. And then friction is 1. I don't think that this matters at all because bouncing is set to none. And this one we check other actor cast to enemy, so that it only does the other stuff when we interact with an enemy. So we don't even need to check whether or not it's a player character, because we're just going to cast to enemy. I kind of want to do silly spells that do no damage, but you can chain them to everything. I was kind of thinking, we don't need to branch anymore either. I was kind of thinking something, yeah, I think we're going to get rid of this as well. And we just apply damage to the thing that we... I will get back to my point in a moment, I swear. Maybe. Yeah, that'll do for now. I was thinking something along those same lines. I was thinking maybe I could do something like those old PlayStation 1 games like Spyro and stuff, where you had cheat codes, like specific button inputs that would make your character flat, or would make your character a certain color, or big head mode, right? That's that's a very famous one. And that's really a thing that happened a lot in like the PlayStation 1 era and maybe a little bit of PlayStation 2 era. Little GameCube games, maybe. But after that, like, that's not a thing games do anymore. And I would really like to revive that, at least in my own game. But it's not something that I've done yet because that requires effort and I don't want to do that. Because I actually need to make the game fun to play first, and then we'll add my like philosophical shit. So yeah, this just spawns in like a mine and sends it into a random direction. This is going to need to have collision again though. So I guess we just do block all. And I guess this needs to... Does this need to simulate physics? I don't know how the projectile movement component works. To be 100% frank with you. We'll see if it needs physics in a moment. Let's make a gameplay ability. Which will be GA Mines. I guess we need to check whether or not those enemies nearby in order to like allow activations to begin with. But if we're going to do that for every spell, maybe we should just do that in the parent class. Like the thing calling this ability to begin with, right? Yeah, maybe actually we do want to do that. Hold on. I think I'm also going to add the items to my favorite because I'm going to be going back to this a lot. Yeah, so if we go to like ability item, but then again, there might be like healing abilities that we don't want to do that on, so never mind. I've changed my mind. We can just copy this stuff over from the fireball ability, which is no longer open because I closed it because I am an idiot. Yeah, so making enemies bigger would also make the hitboxes bigger. So that's actually an interesting thing because it doesn't seem like it does anything at first, but it does. And it also impacts the way that their hitboxes will hit you. So it could make their hitboxes bigger, but it's also like, in my case anyway, like based on the animation, like the animations are very much based on how big every character is. So if a character becomes a lot bigger, their animations might not necessarily work as well anymore. So it's actually going to be more likely that they miss you as well. And it's more likely that you hit them. So like your entire balancing has changed when you make a spell that makes something bigger. That's actually interesting. I'm going to keep that in mind because that's fun. I had this idea for like mini bosses in my game. Where's my fireball spell? Probably should make a folder for spells. For like mini bosses to just be normal characters with maybe an extra ability or two and just bigger. So yeah, we can just kind of steal this and go into this. If this fails for whatever reason, we end ability. And otherwise we just, I don't know, for loop. Between 0 and 5. That'll be 6 in total. Seems pretty good. Spawn actor of class. That's from class. Technically kind of wasteful to be instantiating like 5, 6 different actors at the same time, but I don't really care. Split structure pin. Spawn location will be get actor location plus 150. I'll do 150. And base damage can be 10. need to create a variable for that. And then we, at the end of the for loop, I almost at for each loop, because I never use normal for loops anymore. Everything is a race. Everything. I live for a race. Anyway, so yeah, gameplay ability, mines exists now. That's how quickly we can make some of these spells. Again, we might need to tweak the actual mine blueprint, because I think that that's gonna be problematic. But for now, let's copy over the fireball spell. Just duplicate it. Mine spell. Give it a different temp icon. Gameplay ability for mines. And that's kind of everything there is to it. Which means that we need to go back into here. Add another spell. Mine. We can't load game because it's not going to instantiate us with that new spell, and it doesn't anyway. Why is that? It's because I didn't set it to count 1. That makes sense. So yeah, if I now press K, I'm not gonna lie, I think 150 might be a bit too much. Also, maybe don't want those particle systems on that like that anymore. But I also think 150 is just generally too much, maybe. Or maybe the upward momentum is a bit too much. We'll see. Don't need fireball anymore. Somebody's making noise outside because that's just what you do. Let's just get rid of this for the moment. Let's just set this back to being hello, visible. And then I guess what we want to do is simulate physics on this. Which automatically creates a physics actor. I think that'll just play well with the projectile movement component. I don't know for sure. But we're gonna friggin' find out. So I mean, aside from the fact that they are rolling around, like a lot, and they shouldn't, they should just stay put where they land. But that is, I think, that is doable, right? Because we can just collision simulation generates hit events. Is that true? And if we have this like component hit, what we'll do is we get this component itself. So it's the hit components. Set simulate physics to being false. So that'll make them just stick around on the floor after they hit the floor, I think. That's the idea anyway. You know what? That actually does make a lot of sense. Yeah, probably should have seen that coming. I think... How are we gonna fix that? Aside from just making these like not react to other physics bodies, I suppose. This one, I mean. Aside from making this custom and making them ignore other physics bodies, but I don't know that that's going to work out fairly like well at all. It's worth a check, because if this just works, that saves me a lot of headache. Yeah, that doesn't seem to fix it. So we could, in the ability, I don't think this waits for the execution to be finished here, right? So I can't just add like a... Well, I guess I can add a delay there and it might... But that would also like delay the first one, which would not feel great. And I also think it just now will delay everything 0.2 seconds and still all spawn them at the same time, right? Fantastic, so it just doesn't spawn them at all. Why the fuck would that be? Is it something else that I changed? Surely not. Okay. So I would need to make a for loop with delay to make that work, which is not that difficult to do because it's just like this. Probably good to just add that to begin with, to be honest with you. So let's just like copy this over. Add new macro for loop with delay. Let me open up the other for loop again, because can I just delete the input and output so that I can? No, I cannot. Yeah, so it has a loop body, the index from the local integer. So it also has this one and then that one as an output. And then the inputs will be... You can just go back and forth like this, actually. We have the first index and then last index, and then we do +1, that kind of stuff. So we have the first index, last index. Let's give these names. These are the inputs, right? Yeah. So first index and last index. Loop body completed. And loop index. And with the, let's see. Yeah, so with this then we add in a delay, which needs in a world context object, but we can just provide that in. That's fine. And this will be the duration for the delay. Yeah, so because this is a macro in a library, it doesn't have any context for the world, so you need to give that in. If I just make this as a macro on the character or on the ability itself, we would need to do that. We could just use the normal delay and out, but this will work just as well. So the more I'm thinking about it, the more I don't like this solution, actually. We'll probably look into a different solution in a moment. But it's good to have this anyway. So let's see if this works. And then we'll do something entirely different. For loop with delay, as you can see. Fantastic. The delay duration, let's make that 0.2 second. That makes sense. Fucking that and that's completed and ability. Yeah, okay. That was kind of scary because always when you change something that the engine just creates for you by default, like, did I just mess something up by adding a macro there? I mean, that kind of works, and now they don't have physics anymore. So, like, that portion of it works. They just also... Okay. There's multiple issues with the way that these mines are set up at the moment. But one of the issues that we just solved is that this is no longer a physics body. Apparently, or it doesn't interact with physics bodies. Apparently, that also means that it doesn't get like physics applied to it anymore, which is kind of weird. But I think like now it should know. It just straight up doesn't do that anymore. Why not? I guess this doesn't need to have a projectile movement component, because if it's like doing physicsy stuff, right? And that might be the thing that's taken. No, but it did that before as well. Why doesn't it do that? Is it because of that? Is it still... It's still friggin' with me? I think it's still friggin' with me. Okay, that seems to work kind of well. It's just... But then it doesn't, right? So why does it sometimes do the thing and sometimes not do the thing? Because it always should at least have a z velocity of 1,000, so it should always be going up. They're overlapping with themselves. No, but that's why we made that for each loop with delay, so that they don't do that anymore. I can make that delay longer. Like if I make that delay an entire second, like there's no way that they are overlapping with themselves anymore. But I don't think that they're doing that already. But it's worth checking out. You see, even the first one just, like, they're not overlapping with anything. So that's not, oh, that's unreal close. So that's not the issue. Like, that was an issue, and it still is an issue that we're going to need to take care of at some point, but... I don't think that is what is causing our current problem. But then what is? The whole stopping simulation thing we'll look into in a moment. That might not be a matter of we want to make them stop simulating. I'll just like increase the mass or friction of them or something like that. Of like this sphere, like if we just create like, what is it, linear damping? Is that the one I'm looking for? Add drag to the physics body to more accurately define how physics bodies resist moving. For falling physics bodies, this is a slow descent. That's not what I want. This just straight up is a friction thing here, I believe. But that's not the issue that I'm looking into right now. Like, we can just ignore this for the time being. Is it because this is... Oh, hold on. It's because this is set to custom now, I think. I think it might use the collision... No. Because it's still set to being a physics body. We'll use the object type, not the preset. That being said, it is probably a good thing to set this back to being a physics actor. just in case. I don't think that this is going to make a difference, but I want to check after every change because I want to figure out what the difference is. Yeah, so they're just falling down. Why are they just falling down? Let's just print a velocity as they spawn in. Yeah, no, they definitely should be having all that velocity happening and shit. Hmm. Because if I turn off the simulate physics here, right, it'll just do the movement component, and that works fine. Like a little bit too well, but they also need to not clip through the floor. Is the issue then? Though I suppose if I... No, but they won't generate hit events now, will they? Will they? Let's see. Because if we can just do it like this, it's kind of fucky. I don't think we should do it like this. And I don't think it will work like this, to be very clear. Yeah, it doesn't, because it needs to... Yeah. It needs to have a physics simulation in order to do hit events. So that doesn't work that way, I figured. So long story short, we either need to use the overlap, which, I mean, we can do. No, that is a bad idea as well. Yeah, we should use the physics. Maybe we just have no gravity applied through the physics system, only through the like movement component. Yeah, no, I don't think I don't think that's it. Let's set the mass to something smaller. That might be what's going wrong. Nope. Holy shit. They are very light now. Yeah, that's fair. Just normal mass is fine. Let me just like velocity. Like, can we add velocity? Transformation. Yeah, was that not either? the first thing that comes to mind is making a different actor that has the... And that would actually solve quite a lot of our issues, to be fair. But if we made a different actor with fireworks in the background, I don't know if you can hear that. You can definitely hear that, okay. I guess it's Halloween. But if we made a different actor that did the like the firing out with the projectile movement component, and then when that overlapped with something, and that something would have a normal that is close to a like direct up normal, it would spawn in the actual mine in that location. Default scene route, don't you need your collision sphere or mesh to be the route to use its overlap? No. That's not needed. I mean, it's technically better because then the actor's actual location will be the simulated location instead of the component's location. So like that is technically is better, but it's not gonna like solve any of my issues, I don't think. Because I'm just trying to have like two different like physics related stuff interact. Like one of them is a movement component, the other thing that I'm doing is actual physics. But that would also solve the turning off of physics when... Yeah, I think that's just the way I'm gonna do it, man. I think that's the way to do it. So it's a little hacky, but that's what game development is sometimes, right? So what we do is we have the BP mine, and we're just going to copy that over real quick. And we're going to call this BP ground mine. But I don't know. And then on, like, this all stays the same. We don't use physics on this, because fuck all to do with that. And then on overlap, we instead just... Ooh, but no, we actually do need that to have a hit event, because that is fucked. Maybe we can actually do a component overlap. Hold on. Because I think that might work, like overlap. I think that has like more stuff, right? If we break the sweep results, this has a normal. So let's, before we start putting down a bunch of nodes, let's just print that impact normal. That should be 001 when it just lands on the ground, or goes through the ground in this case, because it doesn't do anything else. And we can also like use that location and stuff. That should print 001 in a moment. What the fuck? Oh. Yeah, no, okay, so you actually made a good point there. The movement components use the root component for that collision. So now that this sphere is the root component, the projectile movement component uses it for its collision. So now we can just fully do this. And we shouldn't be able to like walk into them and move them around either. So this is just straight up. Yeah, okay. So by trying to disprove what you were trying to like ask me, we solved it. So thanks. Yeah, no, that's... I mean, we're going to need to tweak those values a bit. But we also, like, these are now just there. All that said, though, yeah, so the values are definitely, specifically these values are just too high. So that should be like 500 to like 750 or something. There we go. Okay, so now we still have the issue that I would actually prefer for all these to spawn at the same time. But maybe if I just give like 0.1 second in between, that is good enough. Yeah, no. And it also just looks, keep doing that. It also just looks a little goofy. So, I don't know, man. So we need them to interact with... That's a no, that should be fine. That should actually be really easy to do now. Because we can just go into here, and instead of doing block all dynamic, we do custom. This thing is itself is world dynamic, so it's just going to ignore other world dynamic stuff. Because it should only ever worry about like world static things, because the floor is always going to be world static. And another issue that I was afraid of was if we use like the simulate hit event, if it were to hit the wall, we also need to make sure that it like doesn't hit the wall at such a weird angle that it gets stuck to the wall. But that shouldn't be an issue either now. So there we go. Ignore camera 2. I mean, I might as well, but I don't think that's going to be an issue. Okay, so they do get stuck on the wall. To be fair. Yeah, so just the moment that they hit something, they stop moving. So that's not ideal. Well, like the collision channel for the camera isn't like physically where the camera is in the world. The collision channel for camera is like it's a trace response thing. It's not an object response. So, like it's probably good to, yeah, no, you have a point. It is probably still good to, that we don't even need this one anymore. It's probably good to set that to ignoring the camera as well, because then we can like put the camera behind the mine and it doesn't like weird out. So you make a good point there. Oh, because we don't have a thing set for... Okay, why does it do that? I guess just the moment that it hits anything, it stops moving. So maybe it should bounce. And it's bouncing, it should be like 0.2. Maybe that'll make it not stick to walls. It's going to make the actual things bounce, right? Like if we do this, it's now going to be bouncing. But that actually does... It looks pretty good still with the bounce. And now... Yeah, so that's better. There we go. Okay, so now we've got a bunch of mines. Yeah, so that was the idea that I had initially, right? Is checking like on every like collision event with the physics on hit, if the normal of how it got hit was close to just like a world up normal, just 001. So for instance, checking whether or not the up direction of the normal was between how would that work actually? So yeah, getting that value if it tilts like one direction. Yeah, so no, it should always be close to 1. So I probably would check if it's between like 0.8 and 1. And only then make it stop moving. But this works, whatever. The thing with a hit normal is that I either needed to like get that from the component overlap or from a hit event. A component overlap would have worked, but now we don't need to like check that and fight it code every single time. So yeah, now let's check if it actually deals damage to the enemy as well, because we haven't done that yet. Oh yeah, we're dropping frames again. We're also at the end of the stream, so that works out fairly well. Okay, downside to this is we need to rely in to the enemies being dumb enough to walk into these fuckers. So luckily they are. It does damage them, it doesn't knock them back. But that is entirely because they lack the... Yeah, there we go. So if you now would be so friendly as to walk into these, it does knock them back. Okay, so the mind spell works as well. Fantastic. It doesn't use any MP yet. Slightly less fantastic. But that is a matter of just class defaults. I'm just going to set this to thunder cost for now. No, that is dash cooldown and thunder costs. I will look into if I can set the cooldown and the cost in a slightly more effective way than this, because it's a little annoying the way that this works. But this will do for now. Otherwise, I just need to make a metric fuckton of gameplay effects for all of this. But we have 3 spells now. So we spent 2.5 hours making 2 spells. To be fair, a lot of that time was also spent in messing around with particles. So that is... some fucker is using my bandwidth again. But yeah, now it should use... It doesn't use MP. Why doesn't it use MP? Does this one use MP? That one uses MP. This one uses MP? It does. Yes, it does. This one still does not. What did I do? Okay, let me check that out real quick. And then we'll end the stream. I will need like art assets for all that stuff, of course, at some point. But just make a save game here with that new spell equipped, so I don't care about that. Gameplay effect, minds, class settings, no class defaults. Oh, I don't have commit. Yeah. Yeah. I never do a commit ability. Sometimes it's just as easy as that. Life can be real easy. So let's try it out in here. Bunch of mines. Give them all a bunch of damage, and there we go. We start. That actually works fairly well. I kind of like it. And now we can also start like knocking them into it. Like, you can see like how this... I like the mine ID, by the way. Thanks for the ID. You can see how this can start like shaping the battlefield a little bit more. And making things a bit more dynamic than just, hey, press X to win, or press left mouse button to win in this case. Why am I not getting MP back? Oh, yeah, we also should... That mechanic doesn't work anymore either now, because I did stuff. How are we gonna do that? Did you commit? I'm definitely gonna commit a... to my repo after this, because there's a lot of work. Real quick though. How are we going to do that? That's a fantastic question. I guess what I want to do is we don't have a base enemy open anymore, right? No. So let's open that up real quick. Enemy base. The issue is in deal damage that we also need to supply some values back to the player, but only if it's a physical hit. Maybe only if it's a physical hit. Oh, there definitely should have been a C++, by the way, because the bosses also need the same code. For now, what I'll just do is get player character ability system components, and then apply gameplay effects. MP. I don't have any of that stuff, so let's real quick. Hello. Direct defense damage. There we go. Oh, I only needed one of them. Gameplay effects, add MP. Relatively simple. It's just a matter of changing these around now. And then technically, I also need to clamp it. I just need to set up like both gameplay effects checks to clamp stuff in the attribute set. Instead of doing that through all the effects and stuff, so we're just going to ignore that being an issue for now. We're just going to add MP, and what we're going to add MP will be equal to the HP damage. How do I do that in C++, actually? I want to make sure that it's the same. I think it's like 10% of the damage that you deal with a minimum of 1. It's somewhere in here, I think. Surely. Damage enemy, I think that's it. So... mana to add is equal to the minimum between 1% of your max mana or the player mana max. What the? Oh, if this is less, yeah, okay, no, that makes sense. So it is equal to either 1% of your max mana or the difference between your current mana and max mana. So that would be get attribute as floats player max mana. Also, hello. You're joining in just toward the end of the stream, sadly, but like divided by 100, and then we get max mana minus normal mana, or the other way around. Let me just again check C++. Max mana minus, not multiplied, that would be bad. Minus the current mana, and then we get the minimum between the two of them, right? Yeah, minimum. Doesn't matter which way around we do this. So that'll add our mana back on every hit. I thought it was related to the amount of damage you dealt, but apparently not. Which makes it even more okay that it's not part of like that same gameplay effect. Though I suppose that technically does mean that this is now like just straight up cheaper by a couple of MP. Except that it just also doesn't seem to work, so that's fun. Why could that be? Oh, it's enemy attributes that I'm trying to add. I really should have like mana and health consolidated into just a normal base attribute set, because there's no reason for those to be separate. Yeah, so I usually stream twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays on this time. So if you want to hang out, you're always welcome to join. The moment that I finish up this stream anyway, because it seems like, okay, that increased my stuff. My stuff is increasing. Yeah, it works. This using gas. Yeah, this is like my entire combat system relies on gameplay ability. Which, now that I'm adding a bunch more gameplay abilities, is really quite nice. Howdy, haven't been to any streams in weeks. You're not gonna like what I'm about to say, but we're just finishing up now. So welcome and bye. We made some good progress though. We made this one. And we made this one. And I mostly very much like the way that that one looks. I mean, that's good stuff, right? That looks good. I like it anyway. So yeah, we made those two abilities, and that's pretty much it, actually. So not the most progress ever, but it's also not the worst. And that one already exists before we started. But yeah, gas is awesome. I really am happy that I ran into the existence of gas. Partly because it's nice to use, and partly because those videos do particularly decently. Which means that people are finding them helpful, hopefully. And my AdSense also finds them helpful. Not as helpful as the character rigging video still. That thing just doesn't stop getting views. It's kind of insane. It's a short though, so it doesn't make any worthwhile money. Yeah, it's really easy to add more at this point though. You just joined in, so I'm just gonna give you a quick rundown of how this is set up before I end off. So anybody who's joining at this point, almost 3 hours in, I'm assuming that you haven't been here since literally moment one of the stream where I went over all this. So for those of you who have stuck around and hung around and had fun together, let me just run you down the entire system. So we implemented the inventory system a week or two ago into this project, and that all together went fairly well. This entire magic stuff is based on that inventory system. So these magic spells, as you could maybe have seen a moment ago, are literally just items. They are just, if I open up my inventory, I can just put them in my inventory. They're literally just items. And the idea is that you have these 4 slots that you can work with during gameplay, and these can either hold items like potions, which give you some quick instant healing, compared to the usual healing method, which is slow regenning. And it also, the usual regen method in the game, will also stop you from moving. So it's a risky thing to do. So part of the upside is a potion is an instant boost to your health, but it's more limited because obviously, whatever. And you also need to balance that with the spells that you want to take. So you can only take 4 things, 4 usable items into any given situation. And these are just like inventory items that you can put in, and they're spells. In my case, they are literally inventory items. You could very much also use this exact same setup without allowing them to go into the inventory, just like make a separate submenu over them and still like code them up entirely as items as part of the inventory system, so that you don't need to like make an entirely separate magic system, because it's actually quite easy to set this up. So then in my items folder, what we have is I have my base item class. That's just like the C++ one from the plugin. Then I've made a usable item where I have a function for use item, which has a copy of the item slot, the user, and potentially a target if that is ever relevant. I just included this in there just in case. For the most part, it's only ever going to apply to a user. But if at any point I'm like, okay, but I want to use this and I want to like lifesteal, for instance. I want to be able to have a reference to both the user, the player in this case, and the enemy. And I need to do that through the item for whatever reason. I can do that. I would more likely do that in the gameplay ability itself in my situation now. But I figured let's just do it in there. And the usable item I have... let's see, in my player character right here, I just have 4 input actions bound now. That is input action up item, left item, down item, right item. And those link to my HUD widget, which have the exact same functions for top item, left item, bottom item, right item. And what that does is it just gets the item that is currently in that slot, casts it to the usable item class, and runs the use item. And then consumable item is for like potions and stuff. It just tries to remove an item from that slot, which is a function that I made in the inventory system. It checks whether or not it was able to remove that thing. And it also checks whether or not the 2 attributes that I give into it are already equal. So it prevents you from taking a potion if you're already at max health. And then it runs a specific gameplay effect on a specific level. And it can spawn in a Niagara system and then a sound as well. So this is for like potions and whatever kind of stuff. Then another child of usable item instead of a consumable is an ability item. And this is much more easy. It just gets the user's ability system component. And if that is valid, it just gives them an ability with a certain level and a certain input ID, activates it once, and then it removes it again. And this is what we've been using. So if I just open like my fireball spell, you can just see it links through to the fireball gameplay ability class, and it just like executes this. So I can very easily make a gameplay ability, link it to an item, and activate it from my inventory. But yeah, again, so if you don't want this to be interactable as an inventory, you can still just treat these things as items using the inventory like backend code, so to speak, without them like being actual like inventory interactable fairly easily as well. I don't see a reason that you wouldn't do that if you already like have the inventory system as I have it right now, because this just works fairly well. I mean, you can make an entire like separate data asset hierarchy that is specifically for only like those abilities, but I don't really see you using that. Those are data assets. So yeah, the items themselves are data assets. So we have like these, like my inventory system itself, the plugin, wherever the hell it might be, in plugins probably, yeah. Has the like base inventory, the base item class here, and that's just a primary data asset with like some basic item stuff. And then the usable item inherits off of that, and these 2 classes both inherit off of the usable item. And then I can make data assets off of any of those classes. So they are all treated as items in the inventory system itself. Which is nice, but they can then also, like my inventory system has a filter on inventory slots, so I can specifically filter on, hey, these slots only take in things that also are like inheriting from a usable item. And I can easily like make these as different assets in my project. Just say, oh, I have a new spell. Just like I don't have a new spell right now, but I can just say, hey, duplicate this thing, change the ability that it executes. Like this one could, for instance, execute the like player teleport attack or something like that. I don't know if this is gonna work. Because that might require like specific code due to the weapon or something. But we have like the teleport attack, and we can just give it a different icon real quick. Something that doesn't look shit. This one, that looks like shit, I know. And then in my like third-person character blueprint here, we can go into the item slots, add it as one of the default items real quick, just for like bug testing, really. And give myself one of them. And now I do need to start a new game, because otherwise, of course, it's going to overwrite. But yeah, these 4 items that I have in here are now mapped to the D-pad. Theoretically, I haven't set that up yet. For testing purposes, I just have them to like I, J, K, and L on the keyboard, because that's like right-handed WASD. And it's just as easy as, hey, I just added that new assets, and I can now execute that ability by running that asset's like use item. But yeah, I'm quite happy with the inventory system in general, how it's coming along, and like how actually usable it is in a wider scope. I'm going to get rid of the teleport attack thing though, because that doesn't need to be an ability on an item. And then this one can also go away. I'm quite happy with the inventory system as a whole. It needs to have a bit more stuff happening for it until I'm like, okay, this is a solid plugin. But for the most part, I'm quite happy with like how the plugin is coming along, and how actually like implementable it is into these different things. Because I was like, oh man, we're going to add magic to the game now. I really need to do this, because the game needs to have more variance in the combat. But I don't know if adding magic is going to be a big deal. And then I made that first spell like earlier this week, like last weekend maybe. Time is an illusion. I made that first like thunder spell. I was like, that's actually like super easy. Let's make more. So it's just a matter of making the abilities now. Like putting those abilities into an item and making that item like executable in game. This is super easily and like quickly scalable. There's no actual implementation needed for any of this, because the inventory system just like bears all that burden, and that is like coded very much to be scalable itself. And yeah, it doesn't really have any like significant dependencies. Like obviously the player character has a dependency now to, well, to the HUD, and then the HUD has a dependency to the item classes. But it's only to like these base classes. The actual implementation of what each item does lives in the gameplay ability, which I guess is a hard reference, so it's a dependency as well, technically speaking. But like everything, like it goes one direction, right? So that's good. Souls are going to be a currency to purchase spells and potions. Yeah, so I'm not entirely sure yet how I'm going to do the spells. Some spells I'll probably just put down in the world for you to pick up as items. The souls will be currency as well as experience. So you use souls, and this is very Dark Souls. Yeah, I know I said that I was going to be a little less Dark Souls, but the game is a melange of a bunch of different genres, right? And there's definitely like some things that I like about the Souls-like genre, and those I'm going to keep, and the things I don't like, I'm not going to keep. So souls are going to be your currency for everything, for your leveling, for the shopping, and I'm thinking the spells will, like the lower tier spells, the more simple, like weaker spells, will probably just be findable in the world. The more powerful spells, I'm thinking you'll need to craft. So now that I have an inventory system and an item system, it's also going to be really easy to implement something where enemies have drop tables. Because a drop table is literally just as easy as saying, hey, what is the weight of any given item in an array? Add all those weights together, generate a number between 0 and those added together weights, and check where it falls in that array. And drop that item. And then, of course, you can also have like a weight for no drops. That it's just as easy as that to make a drop table. If you want to make a drop table that you can like actually like work with percentages and stuff, that's fine too. You can also do something where it iterates over every single item in the drop table, which has an individual percent chance so that it can drop multiple items at once. I'm just going to do the weighted one because I only want them to be able to drop one item at a time. I think that's enough. So those can be crafting ingredients. I'm thinking for the more powerful spells, you'll need some generic crafting ingredients that will be dropped by some of the enemies. So that way, for specific spells, you also need to go out to find specific enemies because specific enemies will drop specific crafting ingredients. And then also for the like very powerful spells, sometimes maybe I'll put some of those crafting ingredients in specific places, in specific dungeons, in out-of-the-way paths. So you only get those if you go ahead and explore all the optional shit as well. And then you can use those to craft your more powerful spells. I'm also thinking that maybe for those powerful spells, they'll also take some of your souls. I'm not entirely sure on that yet, but I feel like more uses for souls is probably a good thing because it gives the player more like agency and more freedom to make choices instead of just kill an enemy and you can like collect 4 different buttons with it, like either health, max health, either like health upgrade, mana upgrade, defense upgrade, or like strength upgrade, which is all that you can do with it now. There's definitely going to be like a magic strength stat added to this as well, now that I have magic. I might make a like leveling thing for your inventory space as well, where you start with like 10 inventory slots and you can unlock inventory slots and batches of like 5. So if you are going out and you're gathering a lot of like crafting materials and your inventory starts growing as the game progresses, you might want to expand your inventory and spend some of your souls on that. And then of course you can spend souls on like consumables, like potions in the shop, and on maybe crafting. So you get a lot more options and you need to think about, hey, how am I going to use these souls in this case? Because they all pull from the same resource, spending it on one thing directly impacts your ability to get the other things, which I think is which is what I like about these Souls-like games. I don't really love the moment-to-moment like action gameplay in most Souls-like games, but I really like that everything comes back to one like singular centralized currency that is used for everything in the game. And I want to take that from Souls games. So yeah, that's a very long-winded answer to what might have been a simple question, but I don't do simple answers. I am physically incapable. So yeah, that's the current state of things. We're also going to progress with that anime that we've been working on at some point. I just didn't feel like very good today, to be honest. I've been feeling quite tired. I feel like I've got a cold coming up or something like that. I was like, man, I don't know if animating something when I'm not feeling like at my best is a good idea because I'm like a spotty animator at the best of times. And if I'm not feeling it, I don't think that's a good idea. So I'm really happy that the Discord votes went in the direction of doing this because I actually had a lot of fun. A lot of chaotic fun, very unfocused fun, but I had a lot of fun doing this. So very happy about that. But yeah, we're going to end the stream here. Thank you everybody for joining in and hanging out and having fun. And yeah, so I think next Tuesday we'll be back with the anime, and we might make this a thing that I do every now and then, just like do a couple of hours of making some abilities. If anybody is watching this either live or maybe anybody watching this on the VOD, in which case, damn, you have a lot of time on your hands. I'm jealous. You're probably watching this as a background noise thing, I know. If you have any ideas for magic abilities that I can make, do go ahead and just leave them like in the comments, or if you're in the Discord, like throw them in like in the general chat or whatever for my Discord, or however you want to contact me. Because I want to make a bunch of these. I want to make a lot of spells. And I have some ideas, but more ideas is always welcome. Anyway, see you then.